If you are looking for a career change to boost your income in 2022, you're going to want to watch this video. Unless you're a trust fund baby, income is your most important wealth building tool. Of course, in the personal finance community, a lot of content creators will tell you that you do not need a high six-figure income to become a millionaire. However, I can't deny that it certainly makes things much easier. You'll hear that it is all about the savings rate, but let's be honest. The level of sacrifices, belt tightening, and the results that you're going to get from having a 50% savings rate on a $150,000 income is not going to be comparable to what you'll have to do to achieve financial independence on a savings rate of 50% on a $50,000 income. As a result, I decided to do some research, and I have put together a list of 12 of the highest paying jobs for 2022. I will include the key responsibilities for the job, the median income for the profession across the country, as well as the minimum required education, and of course, the positives and the negatives of working in that field. But first, here's a little bit about me.
Hi, welcome to my channel. Thank you for watching. Here's a little bit about me. My household consists of myself, my husband, and my toddler. My mom also lives with us, but she's not included in our finances. We live in a high cost of living city in the Northeast. My husband and I both went to graduate school, but fortunately, we no longer have student loan debt. I work in banking and he works in aviation. I take care of the family's finances and I love my role as the self-appointed CFO. I love to talk about all things money, whether it's investing, saving, or making money. I look forward to sharing a wealth building journey with you. I look forward to getting to know you, and I hope you enjoyed this video.
Before I get started, I want to remind you that this is data that I pulled from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That means it is representative of the median salaries for these professions across the entire country. There will be plenty of people who make more, and there will be some people who make less, because there are a ton of factors that go into how much we make, including the cost of living in a particular geographic area, the level of demand for a certain profession, any expertise or certifications that one might have, or even performance incentives that may be available to some people who are high achievers relative to others. Information Security Analyst. The median salary for an information security analyst is $104,000. Typically, an information security analyst is responsible for protecting the network security of their particular organization. In order to get this job, you may be required to have a bachelor's in science degree in information technology or information systems, or a bachelor's in science degree in computer science. If you want to rise up the ranks and reach senior management levels, a master's may be required. Some of the positives of working as an information security analyst is that you may have the possibility of working remotely, and it is a very in-demand field. As you know, there are tons of cyber attacks happening. Some of them never make the news, but a lot of them do, and there will continue to be a lot of growth in that sector. A downside to working in that field is that you could potentially have long unconventional hours if there is a critical incident that happens that requires a response. Number 11, Medical and Health Services Manager. The median salary for people who hold this title as of 2022 is $105,000. That is typically the head of operations for the business side of healthcare providers. In order to get your foot in the door, you're going to need a bachelor's in science or a bachelor's in arts, either in health administration, public administration, or a business degree. If you want to move up to senior management, again, this might require an MBA or an MHA, which is a master's in health administration, or a master's in public administration. A positive thing about working as a medical and health services manager is going to be that, unlike a lot of other fields in healthcare, you are going to be able to work remotely. And despite the fact that you're in healthcare, you're not really exposed to illness because you're not working directly in patient care. However, a downside is that you might be working long hours, and it is a challenging and complicated environment. Anybody who has ever dealt with the healthcare system in America knows that it's not easy. All the procedures that have to be followed, all of the complications with the insurance company, it is definitely not an easy field. Number 10, Software developer. Now, this is the right time for me to remind you again, this is the median salary for that field. It is not reflective of the average, and it is definitely not reflective of the outliers. There are a whole host of factors that affect salaries, as I discussed in the beginning of the segment, and an additional factor that's going to affect the salary of a software developer is the size of the company that they are working for. Evidently, larger companies are going to be able to pay much, much more. Typically, a software developer is tasked with designing and testing computer applications and programs. In order to get into this field, you will typically need a computer science or an engineering degree. However, a lot of people are finding success in the field simply by taking really intensive coding classes, either with or without bachelor's degrees. But certainly there is no denying that having a degree makes it much easier to get in the door. On the plus side, it is an in-demand field. It is growing. As I mentioned, the largest companies are going to be able to pay you more. They also offer fantastic benefits, and remote work is going to be possible. One of the difficulties that you are going to face with this career field is that it is a very competitive field, and if you are not going the coding bootcamp route and you are getting a degree, a computer science or computer engineering degree is certainly quite challenging. Number 9, an actuary. An actuary's median salary is approximately $112,000. Actuaries are responsible for analyzing the economic cost of risk, and in order to get into that field, you're going to need a bachelor's degree in a quantitative field, which would include math, statistics, or some type of financial modeling. Depending on what state you live in, you may also need some certifications. It is a well-paid field compared to the amount of education that you're going to need. It is a predictable and low-stress environment, and remote work is certainly going to be possible. However, an actuary typically works in a very specific industry because the actuary is the person who's somewhat responsible for your premiums. That means it is a very niche industry. You're not necessarily going to have actuaries in a broad field. Typically, you are going to end up working somewhere in insurance if you are going to be an actuary. Number 8 is going to be physician's assistant. As of 2022, the median income for a physician's assistant is $116,000. Physician's assistants are able to practice medicine under the supervision of physicians, and they provide primary as well as specialty care. In order to become a physician's assistant, the first thing that you are going to need is a master's degree from a physician's assistant education program. They don't typically have bachelor's degree requirement. However, they do want you to have some experience in patient care, and typically you do have to have a basic science education, which will include having taken some courses in biology and chemistry. A very positive aspect of being a physician's assistant is that demand is going up as people realize that there are huge inequity issues with healthcare access. A lot of organizations and governments are working to bridge that gap by offering physician's assistant to work in places where a doctor would have typically been required. You have the ability to have direct involvement in patient care without having the very high cost of medical school. Just like anybody else who works in healthcare, you are working with sick and potentially contagious people. You are also working some unusual and long hours depending on what specialties you are in. For example, unless you are in primary care, you may find yourself working weekends and holidays. Number 7, nurse practitioner. The median salary for a nurse practitioner is $117,000 as of 2022. Nurse practitioners provide advanced nursing care to patients. That includes primary and specialty care that is very similar to the physician's assistant role. In order to become a nurse practitioner, you are going to require a master's of science in nursing. And in order to be admitted to a nursing program that will offer you a master's in science in nursing, you have to have a BSN, which is a bachelor's in science in nursing. They also typically require experience as a working registered nurse as a prerequisite for admission. One of the positives of working as a nurse practitioner is that you have a lot more autonomy than a registered nurse, and you are in a very in-demand field. The level of autonomy that you have is going to depend on the jurisdiction in which you work, because not every jurisdiction allows nurse practitioners to provide care at the same level and at the same scope. One of the downsides of working as a nurse practitioner is that you are going to be exposed to illness because you are involved in direct patient care. Very similarly to being a physician's assistant, depending on your specialty, you may be working long and unusual hours, you may be working nights, you may be working holidays. If you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to hit the like button so the algorithm knows that it's good, and of course subscribe for more content. If you think any of the information that I provide here might be helpful to somebody else, be sure to share it with them. Computer network architect. As of 2022, the median base salary for a computer network architect across the United States was $117,000. Network architects work to design, build, and maintain computer networks, including cloud infrastructure. In order to get into this field, you are going to need a bachelor's in science in computer science, information systems, or computer engineering. A very good upside to this particular field is that you are paid relatively well to the educational requirement, and then there's a huge opportunity for advancement due to level of sector growth. There is always a downside, and I think, in my opinion, the biggest downside is the unconventional schedule and the long hours you might have to maintain if something were to go wrong. In fact, something doesn't even really have to go wrong. You could just be in a position where you find yourself having to rebuild the network, or there's a major conversion happening and you are working way more than usual. Number 5, attorney. The median base salary for an attorney in the United States as of 2022 was $127,000. Attorneys advise and represent individuals as well as businesses and government on legal matters. In order to become an attorney, typically you will need a JD, which is a degree from a law school, as well to be admitted to the bar of your particular jurisdiction. The income potential is limitless because you have the ability to establish your own firm, and in some places you can have special privileges. For example, in my state, if you are an attorney, once you are licensed, you are automatically a notary and you are also automatically a real estate broker. Whereas if you did not have a law degree and you wanted to become a real estate broker, you would first have to be a licensed real estate agent. You would have to work for a minimum of 3 years and then get your license as a broker. Again, an attorney, as soon as they become a lawyer and they get admitted to the bar, they automatically become a broker. They skip all of these previous steps and also become a notary. And of course, another upside to being an attorney is that we are in a very litigious society and attorneys are needed across all industries. Some of the biggest drawbacks to becoming an attorney is that you need an expensive education, and of course, the best paid job prospects will require very long work hours. Number 4, a financial manager, which in my opinion is a very fancy name for a CFO, a chief financial officer. The median base income for a CFO in the United States as of 2022 was $135,000 a year. Financial managers plan for the long-term financial objectives of their organizations. In order to become a financial manager, you will typically require a bachelor's in arts or a bachelor's in science degree in business or another similarly related field. However, if you do want to rise to executive levels, you are going to have a much easier time achieving that if you either have an MBA or a CPA. And that would be in addition to having experience as a financial analyst or some kind of role as an accountant. A financial manager is a good field to be in. There is demand across a variety of industries, especially as businesses scale up. However, it is very competitive and you are facing a constantly changing regulatory environment. Number 3, dentist. The median base salary for a dentist across the country as of 2022 was $165,000. Dentists treat and diagnose issues that are related to patients' teeth. In order to become a dentist, the first step that you will have to do is to graduate from a dental school program. Another field where you have limitless income potential because you can open a large number of private practice locations. And compared to other doctors, I think being a dentist is relatively low stress. However, you are looking at a very expensive education and you are potentially exposing yourself to illness because you have your hand in people's mouth and they are breathing down your face all day long. I can't imagine what it's like to be a dentist in this day and age, and hoping that the people who come to get their teeth cleaned or worked on are not lying about their COVID status. Number 2, nurse anesthetist. The median income for nurse anesthetists in the United States as of 2022 was $184,000 a year. In order to achieve that, you will at a minimum need to have a master's degree in the specialty that you're seeking. And in order to be admitted to a master's program, you will typically require a bachelor's in science and nursing, as well as working experience as a critical care registered nurse. Nurse anesthetists have very high job security, and it is a very well paid field relative to the education that is required. You have people's lives in your hands, so it is a very high stress job given the level of liability. As anybody who works in direct patient care in the healthcare field, you are being exposed to sick patients and you are likely going to face long hours. And the number 1 top paying job for 2022 is physician. Now, physician is a broad range of professions that includes primary care, that includes surgeons, it includes various specialties. We are just talking about the broad spectrum of people who are considered physicians. The median salary for a physician in 2022 across the entire country was $208,000. Physicians typically treat and diagnose illnesses. In order to become a physician, at a bare minimum, you need to graduate from a medical school program and pass all of the additional training that is required for your particular specialty. Typically, you have to have a bachelor's degree with a focus on very specific disciplines like biology and chemistry. You will have very high job security and you will be paid more than most people in the United States if you enter in some specialties. And I am sure that the money is not the only reason why people become physicians. So there is a very high level of satisfaction in saving and improving people's lives. And just like everything else on this list, you have a downside to being a physician. You are facing a very lengthy and expensive education journey. It is a very stressful job because of the risks that you're facing and that your patients are facing. You are facing potential liability for harming people. If something goes wrong, you will work long hours and you're going to be exposed to sick patients. That was the list of some of the best paying jobs in 2022. Let me know in the comment section below if you work in any of these fields and if there's any truth to this information that is out there. And if you are not in those fields or you're considering a career change, please let me know as well. I'd love to hear from you. I would like to continue sharing my thoughts on all things money with you. So I would appreciate it if you could help out the channel by liking this video and sharing it with anyone you think might benefit from it. If you want to see more content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can know when new videos come out. I'll see you in the next one.